Welcome to the 6.5 on the road for the HPE GreenLake announcement at the Hewlett-Packard Enterprise new global headquarters in Houston, Texas.
Hi, this is Pat Moorhead, and we are here on the brand new HPE headquarters here in Houston, Texas. I'm here with Daniel Newman, Antonio Neri. Gentlemen, it is incredible to be here. We're face to face with no mask.
Finally.
Can you believe that?
Finally.
I absolutely love the new place. I see some inklings of the prior headquarters in the way that it looks, but that's a compliment because I like that headquarters when we did that opener, but it is beautiful, and the best part for Daniel and I is we can drive here.
Yeah, that's good news.
Yeah, the previous headquarters was a little bit more of a longer drive and probably an airplane ride, but listen, we are here to talk about some incredible HPE GreenLake announcements that you made earlier today. We're going to break this down, analyze it a bit, ask you a few not so hard questions, maybe, well, but we'll
uncharacteristic
see.
From you.
Exactly. No, I know. Daniel, good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It's great to be at the headquarters. I mean, just walking up, first time seeing it. You know, it's been a weird couple of years. I mean, we're close by, but it didn't matter because you couldn't see anybody anyway. But we're kind of getting back in person. I'm hearing Discover this year.
Yes.
Going to be in person.
On my calendar.
It makes me smile because I think we all miss that camaraderie. I think we miss the chance to sit down. You know, we had one chance, I think, over the last 3 years to actually see each other in person in Las Vegas.
That's right.
And that was right before the next wave. Like, we thought we were in the clear last time. So we're never in the clear, but
we were in the valley, and then we got the pick again.
Crossing fingers that we are back. But, you know, I love having the chance, Antonio, to sit down with you to talk a little bit about what's going on with the announcement. But before we get into the announcements themselves, you know, you sitting in the role you sit in, I'd like to maybe ask the one hard question, or maybe just the big macro question. Talk to me about the big trends that are talk to us about the trends that are driving your overall strategy. What are customers saying? What is the market saying that's sort of driving your overall strategy right now, Antonio?
Yeah, well, welcome to our new home. I mean, as you said, you know, we love this new home. And they had a lot of similarities, Pat, because obviously I was in the design team that built that beautiful San Jose.
Absolutely.
And I learned a few things, which I applied to this new design, which obviously I led with a group of very, very talented people. The difference between there and here is that here you move way faster. I mean, definitely that's an advantage, I would say. But it's an amazing site. We're super proud of what we have delivered for our employees. And I hope to host you many, many times here. So going back to the trends, you know, are kind of interesting, and a lot of them are now accelerated because of what we saw in the last 2 years. The first trend we see is the need for connectivity. If you're not connected, you're not participating in this new digital reality, the new digital economy where data is the new currency. So secure connectivity is a massive need. And I personally believe connectivity is going to be not different than water and electricity. Everybody has to have access to it. If you're not connected, you're not part of what the world is doing. And to me, is a big worry in one end and a big plus on the other end. The worry is that we cannot create a digital divide, right? Because otherwise that will be totally unfair. On the other hand, you know, listen, there is a lot of work to be done. You won't believe during the pandemic what we have done for customers. Here in the United States, you would think about it, one of the most advanced countries, if not the most advanced country on the planet. But if you think about it, some examples with schools, you know, when the pandemic hit, they didn't have Wi-Fi connectivity. You know, their students, they needed to drive through the parking lot to download the homework, go home, do the homework, and drive back to the parking lot to upload the homework. That's totally unacceptable. We're talking about 2020 and, you know, the 21st century, and that's not great. But to me, that's a massive trend, and we are at the center of that trend with our Aruba set of services. The other one, obviously, is cloud. But for us, cloud has always been an experience, not a destination for all your workloads and data, wherever they live, and more at the edge, obviously. And so that's another very important trend, and that's where GreenLake plays a big, big role, because it's a cloud that comes to you, and we can offer a true hybrid experience for it. The third one, which I think is the most important one in my mind, is data. we enter the new age of insights. And to me, data is the most treasure asset you have today. So for me, customers now need to extract the value of the data at a pace we haven't seen before. Those who are digitizing their businesses, who are becoming way more sophisticated on data, are becoming the winners. And last but not least, one thing that the pandemic taught us is the ability to consume IT in different ways. And that's why the as-a-service model is taking off for everything they do, because they realized I don't need to spend all that CapEx up front. I can only pay for what I use. And that's built in our experience with GreenLake. So that's why we have a strategy called HP GreenLake, the edge to cloud platform that we can deliver as a service.
It's been a crazy 10 years. I mean, if I look back and where we were when the public cloud reared its head, and I remember the demise of all these vendors, okay, that was going to happen. My firm made a bet a decade ago on the private cloud, right? And I think we were called cloud deniers or something like that. And it was really this inevitability that not every workload makes sense in the public cloud. And 3 years ago, you got up on stage and essentially said, we're going to do everything as a service. From this day on, everything is going to be as a service. And I think a lot of people who kind of in the know were like, absolutely, bravo. Some others were just, like, what? What's going on here? And from everybody, every vendor in your category, you set the pace, right? You came out first that everything was going to be there. And last time I checked, when I looked at the offering, especially this latest menu that you have, you do have more services than anybody else in your category. So congratulations on that. And nothing lasts forever, so I know you're working hard to get there. But I want to ask you what is probably a very simple question. What differentiates GreenLake from everybody else right now? And if you want to tell us about the future, you can do that too.
Well, I argue that HP GreenLake is the only platform on the market that delivers cloud services across edge to cloud. And that to me is inclusive of the connectivity service, the compute and the storage and the data services that you need to run your business that you can consume as a service. To your point, right? Just this morning, we announced 12 new cloud services. Now, in the platform, we have more than 120,000 customers. Obviously, a lot came through the Aruba integration, but the fact of the matter, in the GreenLake now we have 120,000 plus customers with more than 50 cloud services relevant, not, because the fact of the matter, when you go to the public cloud, there may be hundreds of them, or thousands, but the fact of the matter, only maybe 50 to 80 makes the 100% of usage, right? So we're really focused on what are the biggest problems customers have. Well, first, the need for connecting things. Well, now through the platform, you can deploy a Wi-Fi, a LAN, and one port, and also all the protocols for running IoT in the same platform. Obviously with security analytics that deliver secure connectivity and unique experiences, particularly in a mobile-first approach. Second is, I need a bunch of storage and compute to run specific workloads, whether it's VM containers or workloads, optimized solutions. That's now part of the platform. If you recall, last year we introduced Lighthouse. Lighthouse is a fully optimized stack with compute storage, networking, and the runtime for a specific workload with automation. That's part of the platform. And then this morning we introduced new services, particularly in the HPC space, because AI is exploding. AI is exploding everywhere, and including other functions where customers need a lot of new capabilities like GPU or a data fabric to connect the edge to the cloud. So those are all part of the GreenLake. But in the end, Pat, was the unification really of edge to cloud with all the services that you need to run your day one and your day two operations.
That's a great story, and it's a great story now, and excited about the future too.
Well, in the end, now we are in an environment where all our R&D teams, all our businesses are developing in a cloud-oriented approach. Fidelma Russo, our new CTO, has brought a new perspective, and she is leading this transformation from the platform-centric approach And Tom and Phil today were kind of the two big ones, announcing their services with block of storage or data services, or Phil with the network as a service aspect of it. But the same with Neil McDonald on the computer operations managers. You know ProLiant very well, Pat, because
invented here in Houston, Texas.
Well, it's been reinvented now because while the ProLiant, it is obviously a compute platform, a server of sorts, which is very, very powerful in its own merit, but now it's being deployed and lifecycle managed from the cloud.
Yeah.
And that also sort of has to build other aspects of solutions with the rest of the businesses. So for me, it's great to see the vision, as you asked early on, coming together. And to me, it's important that we continue the momentum.
Yeah, it's, by the way, congrats on the early prognostications. For a few years, not only have we been saying that the on-prem workloads would remain significant, but that the hybrid architectures would ultimately win out. The data and even the research we did indicated, remember, only like 30%, it's more or less, have moved to the public cloud. But you're also talking about this rapidly expanding TAM. And we all know where data is expanding the fastest, and that's at the edge. So having that whole edge to cloud story is becoming exponentially more important, not just the volumes of data. So you got a lot of things right. And clearly that's being seen in the growth. 136% last quarter. So I'm not going to let you use that to answer the next question, but I am going to ask you about momentum, because that number to me was a very strong indicator that the momentum is here. So talk a little bit about that, because I think you've felt for 3 years now you've had the right idea. What are those proof points?
Well, obviously, is great to see the numbers itself. What I'm really more pleased about is the type of customers we're bringing to the platform, right? So one thing is the numbers and the growth and translating all of that momentum into AIR, which is our metric, which we disclose. None of our competitors are, I will say.
Notice that. We're noticing
And so for me, it's super important that we keep that financial momentum, but more important is what customers are we bringing to the platform, because that tells us what problems we're solving for them, right? And if you see some of the customers like Barclays, they have already workloads in the public cloud, but they realize not all the workloads can be there, and they need a true hybrid control plane. GreenLake gives that, and when the workload lands on-prem, we're going to deploy 100,000 plus VMs on-prem for them, but then be able to move things back and forth. Obviously, you're aware with NSA, right, which you announced a couple of quarters ago, and this year is going to be the ramp of that, which is all in the deferred bucket, by the way, and that will translate in AIR. But think about it, a customer like NSA, which obviously runs a very, very mission-critical mission, where we are actually not only building it, but running it.
Right.
All right? That's a big vote of confidence on our platform. And then, when you think about the Aruba platform, including NAS, we just announced also a quarter or two ago the deal with Home Depot. And what they're doing is a true edge-to-cloud architecture. They have the stores. They have more than 2,200 stores that ultimately need a cloud in the store plus the connectivity. So you go show up in the Home Depot close to you with your mobile app. As long as you have an account, they recognize, well, Daniel or Pat is walking the store. Keep that experience going through the store. They can guide you where is the stuff you're looking for. But at the same time, all the point of sales transactions are processed at the edge, right? In a cloud architecture. And then only the differential part of the data they need to run in a batch, in an AI-centric approach, we move it to their whatever your core business is. It can be one of the clouds or it can be their own data center. So that's where I'm really excited. And by the way, you see now the momentum with payment systems too, right? We have few customers running the entire payment system of GreenLake. We had few customers in Japan and in Australia. And so we have a lot of momentum. And what you're going to see from us is more cloud services and more workload optimized solutions as we go forward.
That's good. I'm glad he added that about us working in a retail store, because if this thing doesn't work out,
Yeah.
we're there.
I was actually thinking too, the Home Depot walking in the store, it's like, but do they know how terrible I am at actually trying to do any home projects? But,
I know.
but eventually the data will tell them that.
Exactly, and maybe there'll be an as a service there too.
They maybe recommend a handyman for you.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking.
So throughout this entire conversation, I've heard a lot of really good metrics, but I would like to capture it, all in one place. How do you measure progress for HPE GreenLake? I mean, I've seen customers, I've seen crawl charts, revenue charts, ARR, like you said, but how do you do that? How do you measure
For me,
that?
it's number of customers on the platform.
Okay.
It's a very simple thing. And then, are we growing customers on the platform? Now, the fact that we have more than 120,000, right? And it's quite interesting because on the connectivity side, through the Aruba integration, think about it, we add more than 14,000 devices and things every week. Every week. We process on an hourly basis more than 2 billion data points, because these devices, which are now exceeding 2 million devices, generates on an average an amount of data that has to be processed. So we're managing a very large cloud on behalf of customers. And they rely on us because they need that data to run their operations. Whether it's a Home Depot to collect all the analytics to build into the applications, or whether it's Lowe's, or whether it's Bank of America, whatever it is, they rely on us. And that's where I like this approach, because now we're becoming relevant. It's not just important because you have the best technology. No, you're relevant because you're helping run my business.
Right.
And it comes all through the data. The data we run through the platform is the key advantage. Now, the experience comes with it, and that's why the full integration of our workloads and cloud services in an automation way, in an automated way through the platform on the back end of this, I think is a key differentiation for us, because that's not easy to do, especially at our scale with our portfolio complexity. If you are a SaaS company, which you have a software, you were born that way, but you have only one thing. When you run an access point on the ceiling to a very large supercomputer, that's very different. That's very different. That's why I believe we are just at the beginning, and the value will accelerate from here on for the years to come.
So you said customers, but I also heard engagement, like a lot of data, a lot of things you're doing with them, and I think that's great, Antonio. Congratulations on everything.
Well, thank you. The other thing I'm really proud this morning we announced is the addition of our channel partners, as you know.
Yeah.
I mean, and you have followed us longer than Daniel. This
old.
yeah, well, he looks great, by the way.
I was in the makeup chair for a long time this morning, so.
But I will say, this company was built with channel partners, right? And more than 70% of our business is run through channel partners. They also need to transform. They also need to become relevant. And today, they either sell systems at volumes, or they resell cloud services from the public cloud. But they realize to become relevant, they need to add their own services, which means the know-how, the expertise, the skills are really important. And that's why we integrated 4 large distributors to HPE GreenLake. Their marketplace and our marketplace are fully integrated through the APIs. And by the way, what that does for us, it's not just preference, which is important, in a profitable growth for them, but also the fact that it expands that to 100,000 plus value-added resellers. The reach through them is very, very massive. And what they get from us is the full integrated automated experience from the platform, which is very hard to do if they do it themselves.
So we're coming up on time, but I do want to channel the audience and ask a question. I just know they're thinking this. 3 years ago, roughly,
Yeah.
You got up on stage and you said, we're going to deliver our whole portfolio as a service.
Yeah.
I'm maybe quoting you wrong, but I think that was more or less the gist of what you said.
No, it was correct. I said by the end of 2022, we're going to offer everything as a service that we do.
So we asked you about progress and the business, the growth, the customers, the engagement, the amount of data. Did you meet that, or will you meet that? I guess you do have till the end of the year. Do you?
We will. In fact, we are right where we wanted to be. First, we have now a true platform-oriented approach, which is GreenLake, and is across the edge to the cloud. with a full business process and automation built into the platform, which in order to transact, right, you have to transact in a different way. That to me, again, is a point of differentiation. I argue that's our secret sauce on the back end, and it's very proprietary because obviously it's something that we built ourselves over the last 3 years. But then again, going back to what we offer our customers, now we have more than 50 plus services. Think about it by line of business. Compute now has the entire software into the platform. It's called the Compute Operations Manager. Whether you deploy a Reliant of sorts, it is deploy and lifecycle from the cloud inside GreenLake. Whether you buy a consumer as a service or you buy as a CapEx, doesn't matter. It is transacted through the cloud inside GreenLake. The connectivity side with Aruba is all subscription-based, 100% subscription-based. I can subscribe to an access port or access to a port in the closet, and now with the Silver Peak acquisition, we integrated the wide area network side of the house, which obviously is a market growing very rapidly because as more and more applications are developed in a cloud-native way, the traffic goes through the internet, not through the fixed networks, right? And that's why we also have a big differentiation with CSPs because they need something like that. Otherwise, they will be cannibalized. Then on the storage side, you know what Tom and team are doing, right? Is really with the instantiation of Alletra as the first cloud native run through GreenLake. Now with the block of storage and all the data services, they're all run through GreenLake as well. And even Justin on the HPC, we offer HPC as a service. We introduce new capabilities with GPU and data fabric, but also payment workloads, right? Which obviously is now, it's just nothing more than a cloud workload that you can run anywhere, including the public cloud. So we're well underway, Daniel, and more than 50, but way more coming. And to me, this is what excites me, is not the past 3 years, is the next 3 years.
Now, this is great. Antonio, I want to thank you for spending time with us here, 6.5 on the road at HPE headquarters, the new headquarters here in Houston, Texas. And if I have some time, I might take that car in the lobby for a spin here. We can get that thing started. So this is Pat Moorhead with Daniel Newman and Antonio Neri signing off for an HPE GreenLake announcement deep dive. Have a great day.